योगः कर्मसु कौशलम्.
Namaste, one and all. I am Shivkumar Belli, Associate Professor at National Institute of Fashion Technology, Hyderabad. First of all, I would like to thank Professor Dr. Jagdish Joshi ji, Professor and Director of UGC Human Resources Development Center of Gujarat University, for giving me this valuable opportunity to connect with you and deliver my session on creativity in academics. It's indeed an honor and privilege to associate with HRDC of Gujarat University, which has ranked among top 15 in India and number 1 HRDCs in Gujarat. As you all know, HRDC of Gujarat University has created many milestones, many benchmark for others in the area of faculty development and its related activities. That itself shows the commitment and dedication of all the faculty members, academic administration at Gujarat University. With this note, I would like to begin my session on creativity in academics. Let me share my PPT with you. I hope you can see the PPT now. So the topic of creativity is always of my interest. And I'm sure that this is of interest to many people. What I have planned here is a simple outline that first I would like to talk about the context of our discussion today. And then let us understand the meaning of creativity. Then let us also know who are creative teachers or who are creative instructors or educators. For this class, I will be using these words interchangeably, but in meaning, they have slight difference in meaning. But as a convenience for our class, I will be using these words interchangeably: creative instructor, educator, or teacher, or faculty, or professors. What we all mean is this, that somebody who is in academics, who takes class, who conducts research, who involves in institution development, who also helps students in developing their personality. Then I have also planned to give you few tips and strategies to nurture this creativity in academics. So let me begin with first thing, context. So whom do we teach? In the context, what I'm trying to discuss is about with whom we are talking. Who are our audience? It is kind of know your audience well. As you all heard about KYC, know your customer. And similarly, now I am not in favor of using students as our customers, but it is important to know with whom you are talking. It is important to know what are their backgrounds. Now let us spend some time on understanding their background. Where do they come from? Do we share the same set of background? Do we share in the sense, do we faculty members share the same set of background? Where do we come from? And where our audience or where our students come from? What are the background? All right. As you all know, every teacher has to face generation gap. I'm sure that today all faculty members sitting and watching this video may belong to this age category of 39 to 54 years of age, maybe lesser than that also, or maybe slightly higher than that. But majority of the population who are attending this course might be in the age bracket of 39 to 54 years of age. And we call them as Generation X. With whom we talk or with whom we teach, we talk to people who are in the age bracket of 20 to 25 years of age. And we call them as millennials, Gen Y and ZZ, or all of that thing. Generation Y and Generation Z. Where do they come from? Look at our childhood or our school days or college days. We never had an opportunity, or we did not have all this technology. Social media is one such influencer. We were not exposed to social media. Social media were not existing at that point of time. But these are the people. Mostly, some of them, or mostly, they have born, 2000, year 2000 or post 2000. So they have seen the social media, mobile phone intervention, technology, all of that. We faculty members, when we were studying, we only relied upon television, Doordarshan or Akashvani for our entertainment, for information, or we relied on books for entertainment and information. We relied on few people to listen to them directly and understand what is happening around the world and also get inspired from those people. But today, all of these have been successfully and quickly have been replaced by the social media. Now they have Netflix, and their background is totally different. Even if you comment or even if you try to connect with them, it's very challenging. It's not easy. So that is where we need to think of creative ways to connect with them. The set of problem that we face and the set of problem that this generation faces are totally different. Some of them are even beyond our imagination. But of course, these days, I'm sure most of us are experiencing in our college or in our universities or in the classroom that our students or our kids, if you say, they face a different set of problem. Some of them are, they have the problem of self-esteem, body image, stress, depression. I think depression was not so much, you know, not so much heard when we were students, but today it's quite common, and it's one of the most severe problem that our students face. Cyber addiction and drinking and smoking, teen pregnancy, underage sex, peer pressure, competition, rat race. You can go on listing a set of problems that they face. How many of us really know or understand these problem as problem? Say, for example, some of our old-time faculty members might not recognize that there is a problem called depression or there is a problem called as underage sex because we were not exposed to those kind of a problem at that time. This is what the context that we are dealing with. This is what the generation we're talking about. Another important challenge for every faculty member is to deal with the colonial mentality. What do you mean by that, colonial mentality? It's a severe problem, which means our generation, if you see ourselves, we always held our nation, our culture as an important thing, and we were always proud of it. But of late, what has happened that students do not take pride in their own culture, they're in their own ethnicity. They have cultural inferiority. Let me give an example. I have seen in my college that most of our kids are, I think this is common with any of you in your college days or in your college at present, that students are easily attracted to the Western music than the Indian music. And even if there are good musicians, good classical singers, good classical dancers, they do not claim or they do not show it off. But those who are attracted towards the Western or any foreign, say for example, South Korean music, huge trend among our youth. I'm not denying that, I'm not saying that we should not be attracted to the Western music or culture. But the point is, as you are attracted towards the Western culture or foreign culture, it should not lead to know, to look your own culture as an inferior to others. So not only this becomes a problem when you try to tell something which is of utmost important for the well-being of students, but they might not accept. They might not accept because it comes from that cultural group which they value as inferior. It is a very challenging task. It looks quite simple, but it is not simple. And we faculty members have to deal with this problem. As you all heard about national education policy and some of the important points that NEP talks about, preparing global citizens who are rooted in Indian culture and civilization. And that is where we're trying to address the problem of cultural inferiority that is quite prevalent in our students. There are many nations who are deep rooted in their civilization and culture, and yet they could modernize themselves. Say, for example, Japan, rooted in their culture and civilization, yet they are modern. Look at top brands in our industry, in our maybe if it could be durables or any other product category, they have brilliant and very well-known brands in the market. Yet they have not forgotten the culture or civilization. Look at South Korea, say for example, top brands, but still Samsung and all that, but still they are deep rooted in their culture and civilization. In some way, China also deep rooted, not in other connotations, but in some way it is also deep rooted in their culture and civilization at their modern. But there are few countries, they only stick to their old traditions and culture, but they did not adopt to modernity. And there are a lot of countries today who have facing this problem of extremism and all that problem, political problem. The challenge with them is they are so stuck in their own traditions and they do not question and challenge, and that becomes a strong barrier for them to accept the modern technology or modern ways of education, all of that. So we have seen countries like Japan, we have seen countries like Syria and others, and we are also seeing countries like US and UK. What we understand that we need to choose this path where we are still rooted in Indian culture and civilization, but yet we adopt and accept the modernity. And that's so common and natural for Indians to do that. That is why we call be local and go global kind of concept, which is what some of these concepts. Another important contribution of NEP is holistic and multidisciplinary education. Today, the new knowledge is not created by a pure discipline of pure one discipline. It is being created at the intersection of multidisciplines. There are many examples that you can recollect. One, retail, say for example. In the retail front, you need people from finance background. You need people from art background. Why art or fashion? Because they have to style the garment. They have to give that appeal to customers. They have to arrange the store, visual merchandising that we popularly known as. They have to style the mannequins. They have to design the studio or the retail store. So we need people from fashion background. We need people from commerce background. We need people from management background. We need people from science background. Say for example, there are augmented reality, virtual reality, AI, all of that, pure science or applied science for that matter. We need those people also to run a retail store. We also need biologists, especially people from neuroscience, because they understand what happens in the brain and they can predict what customers buy, what customers don't buy, what are the reasons behind it, which color appeal to them, which color does not appeal to them. All of that, if you see, it's actually a new phenomena where a new knowledge is created by the intersection of multidisciplines. If this is all the case, then how are we going to deal with this kind of context? We require a creative mindset in academics. I'm sure this has been in wide circulation these days, which is called as 21st century skills, broadly classified into three categories: foundational literacies, competencies, and character qualities. Look at foundational literacies. They have literacy, numeracy, scientific literacy, ICT literacy, financial literacy, cultural and civic literacy. Then come to the second aspect, competencies, which means how students approach complex challenges. Most important thing are critical thinking and problem solving, creativity, communication, collaboration. So this is where I am focusing on the 8th point, which is creativity. Yeah. Then we have character qualities, how students approach their changing environment. One must be curious to know, take initiative, persistence, adaptability, leadership, social and cultural awareness. And these are all not just one-time learning. Say, for example, creativity is not just one-time learning. You attend this course and next day onwards, you will be an expert in creativity. That's not possible. Creativity is a lifelong learning process. Critical thinking, a lifelong learning process. Curiosity, it should be there all the time. Adaptability, it should be part of your quality. It should be part of your character, right? Same set of skills are again depicted in 4 quadrants, if you see on the slide. One is ways of thinking. Next quadrant is ways of working. Third quadrant is ways of living in the world. And fourth quadrant is tools for working. Where do we figure our creativity? Can you guess? Yes, it is in the first quadrant. Ways of thinking. First quadrant, which means on the screen, left top. Yeah, left top. Creativity and innovation. This is how we are talking about thinking. Have you noticed in your classrooms that do our students think? They don't think. Give any example, give any assignment to your students. What do you notice there? That the moment you give an assignment, what do? They Google. And they just type the same statement that you mentioned in the assignment title. Say, for example, post-COVID business problem. Give this as an assignment to the students. What do? They don't think. The first thing they do is they take their mobile phones or laptop or any other gadget which is available to them. They take and first thing they search on search engines. They type exactly the same line that is there in the assignment title, which is post-COVID business problem. Now, as you know, Google is an algorithm and it throws on results according to its algorithm. It does not match with your thinking or creativity. Now ask them, don't touch Google and just think. Then you notice a lot of creative ideas which may not be present in Google or which may not be present in the public domain. This is very important to inculcate the practice of thinking. The practice of thinking is almost fading out in our students. There are many reasons for it. It could be just to clear the exam or time constraint. Maybe they don't have time to do the assignment. There could be many reasons. But what is the fun if we don't train them in thinking? If they don't think and if they act as a machine, what better world we are going to create. And that is why creativity, innovation, critical thinking, problem solving, all of them are very important. Yeah? All right. Let's go to the next slide. This is also an extension of our previous slide. And this is popularly known as T-shaped professionals. What does it say? It says the same thing, that today's professionals are not coming from one core discipline. They have to cross the boundary of their own disciplines. Say, for example, a pure scientist cannot just be a pure scientist today. He has to emerge and understand many disciplines. It doesn't mean that he should not have a deep understanding in his own discipline. Look at the bottom two boxes. You see there, deep in at least one discipline or at least in one system. They are very important. We cannot ignore that part. When we talk so much of multidisciplinary, it doesn't mean that you forget your core discipline and then you talk about periphery at the multidisciplinary. That doesn't serve the purpose of multidisciplinary. The foundation of a multidisciplinary, as I understand, it should be, first thing is that you should have a deep knowledge, understanding about at least one discipline. It could be accountancy, or it could be marketing, or it could be finance, or it could be HR. It could be anything, but you should have a deep understanding in one discipline or one system, that for that matter. Then raise yourself to MEs, multidisciplines, understand communication and all that. Then cross the border, which means understand what teamwork is, different perspectives, encourage critical thinking. So this is this is what people look at today when they hire. This is what the companies look at. So for what I have done is this. I have tried to set the context, which means who are we and what are our backgrounds and what are the backgrounds of our students and what are the requirements of changing times. And with this context, we'll try to understand more about creativity, because I believe that at least now, at this point of time, we all recognize the need for creativity because of the context that we have discussed so far. Let me go to the next slide. What do we do? Which means in college or in schools, what do? We teach, we do research, we do consultancy or community engagement. It's not always easy for everybody to get a high value, reputed consultancy assignment. It depends upon many factors. It could be institutional reputation or individual reputation, or how close you are, or what is the rapport that you have built with the leadership people, leaders in the organization or the corporates. That depends upon many things. But when you say consultancy, it has two meanings to it. It has two dimensions or two aspects to it. One is you undertake consultancy or consultancy assignment to make money, or you undertake consultancy assignment to gain knowledge, a practical knowledge, and your primary idea is to transform that knowledge of practice into teaching or into research, or somehow you would like to bring back that knowledge that you have gained in consultancy to the academy or to the academy. That's an important thing. What I would like to say here is this, that though it looks so important, when you don't get an opportunity to get an assignment from a company, let us try to work out with community. Say, for example, we work in tier 2 and tier 3 cities, say for example, smaller towns, but they are emerging today. And tier 2 is the future. Tier 1, I think It has reached saturation. Now tier 2 and tier 3 are the most emerging markets in India. Yeah. Uh, so there you see lot of business, small business organizations, they struggle. So there is also a lot of learning for us. We should go and connect with them, and thereby we can we can gain a practical knowledge. Maybe you may not make money, but that's okay because you make money by teaching. So a consultancy assignment should not be just looked as a money making avenue. It has to be looked as a knowledge sharing or knowledge gaining, and ultimately it has to transform into a knowledge that you can utilize in classroom teaching or you can utilize in research. Say, for example, you can take a small assignment with the city municipal corporation or town municipal corporation. They deal with lot of problems. Say, for example, they don't know how to dispose of the waste, or their problem is how do we maintain health and sanitation. Policy matters, public policy you can call it as. Or there are smaller, SMEs and MSMEs. You can do so much there. We also do in as a teacher or as a faculty member, we also do institutional development. It could be placement, it could be admissions. Some or the other way we are there. Yeah. Then student activities. It could be many, maybe students do all these activities, but we mentor them, we handhold them, and we do many other things. Now, the point here is, if I ask you to rank them, if I ask you to rank them, according to you, which should come first? That's what my question on the slide. There are two questions on my slide. At the top, one is, what do we do? And what we should be doing. See, now the question is which comes first and which comes later. It depends upon your individual choice, priorities. I'm not going into that. But what I'm saying is, if maybe for 1 year, if you're too much of into teaching, invariably you will not get time for research. Or maybe for a year, for a year, you are very much busy in research, then you may not do well in teaching. It's very difficult to balance both. Or if you're too much in consultancy, you may not get time to write what you are doing in the consultancy area. So at least when we are aware of the problem, and then you can, I can say you can calibrate it. Say, for example, this academic year, I have a lot of teaching workload. Now let me focus on teaching. Maybe I will pause, or I will, uh, reduce the speed of my research. But now let me focus because I have so much of teaching load. Next time, you may plan to cover up in research, which means it's a continuous process. This year, sometimes it is by choice that you choose to teach more and less research. Sometimes by chance, you don't have any control. There are less number of faculty members in the department, so you end up teaching more. Or there are more number of faculty members in the department, then you choose this path of research. So sometimes it is by choice, or sometimes it is by, you can say, destiny or chance. But at least we should be aware of what I'm doing. Am I doing too much of teaching, or am I doing too much of research? Ultimately, my point is, do whatever it has to add value to your students. Now, we are getting into the second concept or second point or agenda of my discussion, which is meaning of creativity. What is creativity? Let's have few starting questions. I'm calling them as starters. Who is the most creative individual you have ever met? Please think. Who is the most creative individual? There are many answers that I can guess. One, your mother. the most creative individual that you have ever met, your father, your own kids, your spouse, your boyfriend or girlfriend, your students, your teacher who taught you in school or college, or kids in general, scientists, cinema makers, literary people. Oh, then it's a very difficult question. You are putting everybody in this bracket or in this basket. Yeah. So, according to you, another question. According to you, in which field creativity is the most essential? Is it in art field or science or humanities or social science, where the creativity is the most essential component? Very difficult question, or you can say it is really a stupid question, isn't it? Because creativity is most important in all walks of our life. What you see on the screen is a beautiful temple, 1,000-year-old temple called Brihadishwara Temple in Tanjavur in Tamil Nadu. This temple is 1,000 years old temple. And look at the Vimana. Vimana means the Shikhara. This part, I don't know whether you can see my cursor here. Yes, so Shikhara or Vimana, the weight of this Vimana or that Kalasa is 80 ton. Now, that kind of a weight, how did they transform into that height? How did they take that and place it on the top of the Vimana? There are 6 recorded earthquakes, but nothing has happened to this temple. This is a creative genius piece of work in architecture marvel. Very popular and our time story is Mangalayaan, a Mars orbiter mission. What was the cost? $69 million. When you compare with NASA's first Mars mission, our cost was 1/10 of it. I have shown you 2 pictures. Look at the creativity of ISRO scientists. Cost reduction. And look at your right side. What you see is the Elite Space Club. I think you can guess it is from NASA. Yeah. And this is how the newspaper of the West had projected at that time. But over a period of time, creativity has immensely helped. It is not necessary that creativity is nurtured in a very hi-fi tech-enabled laboratories and all that. It's all here. It's all here, both heart and your mind or your genius intellect, your emotions, how strongly you associate with your project, how better you are in your core disciplines, how better you are in other disciplines, how good you are in communication. All of that matter to be a creative genius. Great epics or literary works, Ramayana, Mahabharata. Take any story of Mahabharata, what you notice that nothing you can see which is happening with you is not in Mahabharata. Which means all that happens with you today is already there in Mahabharata. Or what is there in Mahabharata is already is still date happening. Which means, and it is written in a poetic form. Ramayana, Mahabharata, poetic form. Such a beautiful work. It has reached beyond time and space, beyond culture, beyond geography. Epic literatures, literary works, a creative genius. Then movies, for that matter. I have few movies from different languages. I think, I'm sorry, I don't have anything from Gujarati movie. But you see these examples. They are some of the classic movies that you can notice. You see creativity there. Especially in Indian cinema, we are more creative. Songs, dances, animation, story, uh, everything. If you see, though we are little late in coming onto the cinema front compared to the West, but the kind of variety that we have brought into Indian cinema is really amazing. You cannot imagine a movie without a song today. But when song requires, there is a person who can write the lyricist we require, then there is a choreographer, then the set. We are different set of people when it comes to creativity, we Indians, right? Okay. Let's come to society. We not Padman, you all know Arunachalam Murugan, who invented or who has actually solved many problems with one single product. He solved the problem of hygiene and sanitation to the women. He also solved the problem of livelihood generation to the women. He also solved the problem of acceptance, the social stigma attached to a menstrual cycle or monthly periods to the woman. One product, three problems, or even you can find out more problems that they solved. So creative person again. Look at business, Airbnb, Uber. They don't have their own product, or they don't own car, they don't own any home or any space, but still they are top. So what did we notice here is this, that creativity is all pervasive. It's in art, it is in architecture, it is in science and technology, it's in business, literature, music, movie, education, it's everywhere. But today what we are doing is this, that we are making an attempt to go in detail and understand the nuances of creativity. When we discuss about creativity, we come across these two terms. One is big C and little c, which means big creativity and small creativity or little creativity. As name itself indicates, big C means eminent creative activities, relatively rare displays of creativity that have a major impact on others. So anything that has a major impact on others, it could be on planet, it could be on people, it could be on some sort of a profit that you're talking about, all the three P's you're talking about. So if those displays of creativity have a major impact on others, then we call such displays of activity or creativity as big C or eminent creativity. Then we have little c, creativity. For example, you have a problem with electric socket, you may use pencil or you may use a matchbox stick and you set the problem, you fix the problem. They are daily problem solving. You go into the kitchen, every aspect they do in the kitchen is all little c. Yeah. Look at our kids, small kid I'm talking about, toddlers or early age of a kid. How do they solve the problem? They solve the problem with smaller things. So little c, daily problem solving and the ability to adapt to the change. That's little c. So big C and little c. Now let's try to understand the meaning of creativity. We try to understand the experiences of Kalidasa, Shakespeare, Abhinav Gupta, Chanakya, Picasso, Da Vinci, Einstein, and people like them. And we question that, if anything, we ourselves have in common with these amazing individuals, do have something, some qualities of Chanakya, because he was also a teacher. Abhinav Gupta, great, a great personality in Indian aesthetics, Kavya Parampara and Natya, his contribution is immense, right? Einstein, Shakespeare, Picasso, do we have something common with these amazing individuals? Basically, what I'm trying to question is this: are there any personality traits which are common with these individuals? On a very practical level, educators, parents, employers, and policymakers realize all too well that it is only with the creativity that we can hope to address lot of problems facing our school, medical facilities, our cities, our towns, our economy, our nation, and the world, which means anything can be solved if we have a creative bent of mind. And that is why they say creativity is one of the key factors that drive civilization forward. So here is a definition of creativity. Very important to understand the meaning. I just read and highlight some keywords of it. Although most researchers and theorists agree that creativity involves the development of a novel product or idea or problem solution that is of value to the individual and or the larger social group. But psychologists have had great difficulty finding consensus as to a definitional components that reach beyond these two criteria of novelty and appropriateness. Let's focus on two words in this definition. One is novelty and appropriateness or value to somebody. It can be a larger social group or it can be an individual. So anything that has a novelty in the sense a newness, कुछ कुछ नया, yeah, out of the box thinking, कुछ different, हटके से जो होता है. And second component of creativity is appropriateness. Appropriateness meaning it has some value to somebody or a community. So if you satisfy these two criteria, then your idea can be called as a creative idea. Yeah. Say for example, you decided to, you maybe say for example, you're very good in writing a script. You are a commerce faculty or you are a management faculty. You teach marketing, say for example, or you teach accountancy. But now you have invented a new way that you are also good in a script writing where you write dialogues based upon a scene. So you write a scene and you write a script and you give it to your students. Yes, nobody teach marketing. Of course, role play is there, but now you are creating your own script and you are writing and spending time and you are trying to connect with the lives of the students so that they can connect very well with the concept of accountancy or marketing. Say, for example, that's the newness you are bringing to teach these subjects. And then whether they have value to the social group, whether they have value to the students group, yes, of course, it has an immense value because by your script or by your that piece of dialogues that you have written, students would understand the concepts of uh, accountancy or marketing very well. I think some of the CBSE books, they have already doing this part. Say for example, they take few characters and they go on explaining about the concept. You remember Amar Chitrakatha? Amar Chitrakatha. It was a magazine for us when we were all in school or maybe in school. So look at Amar Chitrakatha. There were few characters. Partha was one character. All personality development, things were told to Partha, and then Shikhandi Shambhu or something like I actually forgot the few names there because it's yeah, I forgot. But what do you see there? There are few characters that we like. Vikram Betal stories, yeah, Panchatantra stories. A creative way of teaching moral values to the kid, and the moral has itself a value. So both of them are important, and it's new way of teaching. Yeah, all right. Now, there are a few more definitions I am just displaying here because of the time constraint. But I want to highlight the last definition given by Sare Kung, Sarah Kung, 2009. What he says is this: creativity is imagination with responsibility. So this is very guiding, force or guiding principle. Most often, what happens in the pursuit of creativity, we may forget the responsibility. Yeah, and many of our cinema makers do that. In the pursuit of creativity, they distort history, they distort facts. I think this is a very disservice to the reality and truth. But that is why this definition is very important. For example, just because of creativity, you always do a lot of creative things, newness, but there is no benefit to the audience, to the student community. Or sometimes you spoil the entire, or you can upset the learning, students learning. That can also happen. That is why it is important that we should realize that creativity is imagination with responsibility. Never ever we should forget this. Creativity has to come with responsibility. Sometimes if you are not creative, if you are really not so creative, that's okay. But if you but be responsible. That's an important takeaway from this definition that I want to highlight. All right. So what we do now, we'll take a small break, then we'll meet in the next video. Thank you. Namaste once again and welcome back. In the last session, we were discussing about the context where we essentially require creativity in academics. Then we have seen the definition and meaning of creativity. Now let us extend our discussion and understand few more aspects of creativity and then come to an interesting point of discussion is exploring few strategies and tips, practical tips of being a creative person in academics. Let's see those slides now. Give me a moment. I want to share the PPT now. Yes. I hope PPT is visible to you now. Okay. Now let's start. There are three components of creativity. Look at them. One is expertise, then motivation. Third one is creative thinking skills. Yeah. What is expertise? Expertise is a knowledge. It could be technical knowledge, procedural knowledge, intellectual thing. So it is an expertise. Then another important component of creativity is motivation. I just want to check whether it is recording or not. Just a moment, please. Yeah, it's recording. Okay. So, yes. Yeah. So motivation. As you all know, not all motivation is created equal. There is something called as implicit motivation, inner passion to solve the problem at hand. That is very essential when it comes to creating. There are external rewards. For example, why do you work? You ask many teachers, many good teachers, and ask them, why are you in teaching? They don't say, that I am in teaching because I make money. You can make money elsewhere, but why teaching? Then you realize that there is something which is an inner passion for teaching, or inner passion for doing some research in academic. So that is more important for being creative person. So more than extrinsic rewards, intrinsic rewards are more important components in creativity. We call them as intrinsic motivation. And people coming from management background, they will have a very good understanding of intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. Even this can be an important line of research that one can work. uh, Intrinsic motivation, extrinsic motivation, and its relation in creativity with different sectors, different set of people. So what I'm trying to say here is, it's intrinsic motivation that has a greater influence on creativity. Yeah, there are many people, many creative genius. They might not have enough financial rewards, but still they continue to do their job. That's the passion that they have towards their work. And third aspect of being creative is creative thinking skills. And I'm going to touch upon them because there are few creative exercises that we can do easily in the classroom. So creative thinking skills determine how flexibly and imaginatively people approach problems. Being flexible is an important requirement to be creative. Being imaginative is also an important requirement to be creative. Yeah. So within every individual, creativity is a function of three components: expertise, creative thinking skills, and motivation. Now that we know all these things, as a teacher or as an educator, what are our contribution? Which means to address creativity, which means to prepare yourself and your students to be a creative personality. We need to think of expertise, we need to understand their intrinsic motivation, and we need to exercise these thinking skills, creative thinking skills. There are certain myths about creativity. Number one, the smarter you are, the more creative you are. That's a myth. It doesn't, it is not necessary. It has nothing to do with the smartness. Yeah. Then the young are more creative than the old. This is also a myth. You can see many literary genius of our time, they are not so young. Most of them, they are old, but still they come out with lot of creative. It could be novel, it could be small, write up. Even cinema makers, you don't find, maybe actor and actresses, you require a young generation, but people behind the screen, most of them are not young, they are old, but still they produce a lot of creative stuff. Of course, some of them, they project, they are young by look, and otherwise they are not so young. Yeah. Then creativity is a solitary act. This is also a myth. Yeah, we require a lot of collaboration with others to be creative, or to come out with a creative solution to a problem. You cannot manage creativity. No, that's a myth. Today you see some of the finest organizations like Google or IBM, or Indian companies like Mahindra, many such Indian firms. Today, if you see, they invest time, resources in managing the creativity. Wipro, yeah, okay. Now, this is a list which I always discuss in my class, which is the most common ideas toppers. Those who teach entrepreneurship, I'm sure you must have come across these list of ideas toppers. and they also applicable not only the entrepreneurship but also to the people in academic who try to be more creative. They stop people becoming creative. What are those idea stoppers? First one, whenever you propose a creative idea, there can be a set of people, say for example your directors, your principals, or your own colleagues. If all of them are supportive, then you yourself say, ना ये आइडिया तो शायद काम नहीं करेगा. That's the first idea stopper. And sometimes we become like an idea stopper to our students. We play all the roles. Sometimes we take the sides of victims. Sometimes we take the sides of victimizing somebody. Huh? But let us understand. Sometimes nobody is doing anything, but sometimes you yourself say, "Yeah, the idea is good, but ये काम नहीं करेगा." ना. Then another idea stopper. These are important words, Can't. And look at what is written in the bracket. This is said with a shake of the head and an air of finality, which means ये हो ही नहीं सकता. This cannot be done. And that's it. You cannot, then you stop your creative thinking there itself. Third one, that is the dumbest thing I have ever heard. Some of you must have already experienced these kind of comments from your peers or from your bosses or sometimes from your own family members and friends. You share a creative idea, they might say openly that, oh, this is subse, dumbest idea is this. Then there you stop, you will not proceed further. Then there are a few people who say, when you share your creative idea, they say, yeah, but if you did that, ये हो सकता है, वो हो सकता है. It is an extremely unlikely situation that they would pose in front of you to discourage. At least, let us not talk about others. As a teacher, I should guard myself when my students or when our students come and share their creative ideas. Yeah, we need to guard ourselves. Let's not. Sometimes when they come to Viva Wars, we do that by knowingly or unknowingly. But at least henceforth, let's guard ourselves that I will not be an idea stopper. If there is a problem somewhere, you try to address in a constructive way than completely discouraging. Then this guy or this student may not even attempt next time because he loses that psychological comfort with a faculty member. He loses that confidence to share because he has seen you stopping his idea. Sometimes maybe he is not right, the student is not right, but let's take it not in the direction of labeling ourselves as an idea stopper, but instead a way somebody who facilitates. I think if we are aware of these idea stopper, will certainly it will bring some change when we deal with our students. This is also another idea stopper. We share an idea and there are people say, oh, we already tried that. Not today. 1000 years ago we have done that. ये आप पहली बार नहीं हो, ये हमने 5 साल पहले ऐसे कुछ किया था, हमने कुछ नहीं होता है. That is also a discouraging thing, right? Then we have done all right so far. Why do we need that? ये भी होता है. मतलब सब कुछ ठीक ही चल रहा है ना. Why should we try out something that you are talking today? Then I don't see anything wrong with the way we are doing it now. As I said, everything is going good. Why you want to try something new altogether, right? Then you share some of the creative ideas. Initially they sound so crazy and not practical. Of course, that's how things of innovation begin. That does not sound too practical can also be ideas. Some more idea stoppers are here. We have never done anything like that before. You are right. I say हो सकते हैं कि there are few people around us, or sometimes we also behave that way. I'm not saying all of the time. No, others do this idea stopping thing. If you really no, do some kind of a self-reflection, we realize most often we have done the same thing. We have become an idea stopper for others, especially with our students. And each of those situations, let's not repeat. We have never, let's saying something like this, we have never done anything like that before. Why you want to do this now, all that. Then let's get back to reality. Many teachers are there, I remember all my own stories when I had done all these mistakes. Yeah. So these are few things which we need to guard ourselves. Then we have got deadlines to meet. We don't have time to consider all that. Then it's not in the budget. Are you kidding? This is a very discouraging thing which actually inhibit creativity among people. Let's not go off on a tangent. Huh? So where do you get these weird ideas? So that's how, look, see, some of us, when we come across small classroom projects or their graduation projects at the end of their 2-year education, post-graduation education, they do a project, they write a report and they submit in a Viva Voce. I'm not talking about PhD scholars. There also, we do the same thing sometime. But when we look at more original thoughts would come from our postgraduate students than the doctoral scholars, because they see the world, they don't have any discipline to understand, and hence they get a lot of original ideas. And remember, the originality is so crude. It doesn't come in a sophisticated blanket or envelope. It comes as it is, as natural, as wild, as weird as possible. It does not come in a proper sophistication. Now I remember the story, or it's not a story, the thing which has happened with Ramanujan, now a great mathematician of our time, of our old time. So when he writes his work, his scholarly work to Hardy, professor of mathematics, Hardy does not understand what he has written. He has to spend a lot of time in writing, because that that there is no such in the Western research community. There is a discipline of writing things and publishing. But as an Indian, Ramanujan did not have that kind of a formal education in publishing, but he had original thoughts. Hardy took a lot of time to understand, and then he invited him to his place. So what I'm trying to say is that weird ideas, the creative ideas, they do not necessarily come with a lot of sophistication of envelope. They come as it is, and it is your consciousness or your openness, flexibility that helps you to identify those innovative or creative ideas. And they are very practical. These things we can actually talk. We can actually daily, morning or evening, for a few days, if we remember, we certainly can bring a lot of changes in the classroom teaching, or the way we deal with or communicate with the students or with the peers. And that actually creates a culture of nurturing creativity or nurturing new ideas in the academic front. Third aspect of our today's talk is on creative instructor, which means what makes a teacher a creative teacher. Yeah. Creative instruction encourages students to think independently, participate actively, and express themselves freely. So, what is the benefit of being creative instructor? Number one, it makes students to think independently. Very important. You cannot be always there to think on behalf of them. Which course to select, which elective to opt this time. Should I go for finance? Should I go for HR? Should I go for marketing? No. So let them think independently. Then participate actively and express themselves freely. Yeah. What are the factors that influence or that make a creative instructor? Number one, teachers' personalities. Number two, family background of a teacher. Often we tend not to highlight this aspect, but that is an important aspect that make a teacher a creative teacher. Learning processes, life experiences of a teacher is very important. talking all taxation without actually filing a return for ourselves is not a life experience that we talk. Yeah, many of us we do. We teach taxation, but we don't file our own taxes. So we don't have a life experience. We teach marketing, but we never sold, or we never try to understand in deep. Or sometimes when people come to you with their uh, personal problems, and most often we don't have those kind of experiences. As I mentioned in my beginning slides, their set of problems are totally different. You may not have those kind of experiences. We may not have those kind of experiences. When we don't have those life experiences, it is very difficult. Yeah, like when a mother goes to Ramakrishna Paramahamsa with a complaint that my kid is eating too much of jaggery, you please tell him that he should stop eating jaggery. It is not good for his health. Too much of sugar is too much of sweetness. Jaggery is not good. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa says you come after 10 days or 15 days. The story changes according to one place to another place. And after 15 days, mother goes with a child, and then Ramakrishna Paramahamsa tells the child that, look child, don't eat jaggery. It is not good. Eat once in a while, but not all the time. Simple line, simple sentence. Then mother asks to tell this one line, you took 10 days. Why did you take so much of time? You should have told in the beginning itself. The first day when we met, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa says, I was also eating too much of jaggery. So first I have to correct myself. And then I have to teach somebody, which is life experiences. How difficult it is to come out of that practice or habit. One must go through that experience. Experience is an important component of our teaching. I will come to experience or experiential learning in the next after few slides, but life experiences are important. Education belief. We all have different, belief system towards education. Why education? When we say belief, or belief in the sense, let us understand belief this way: that why education? Why one must educate, or why one must undergo education? Belief system. Then motivation and diligence, and institutional environment. All these factors make a creative instructor. If they're all good, you find a good instructor, a good creative instructor, a creative educator, creative faculty. Now, the first point, teachers' personalities. There are a few common personalities of a creative teacher. One is creative instructor or a teacher is self-confident, openness to experience, fantasy oriented, is always imaginative, emotionally sensitive. Now, say for example, you have a student, and the student has a pet, a dog, and she loses, maybe because of some unfortunate thing, the dog dies. And how do you respond to it? Because your student is totally shattered because of the loss of the pet. You may not connect so strongly with that, because you might have ever had any pet or any dog in your home. So then you may end up saying something which is not so soothing to that student. So you should be emotionally sensitive. Drive and ambition, norm doubting, which means question the status quo. Why can't we do the same thing in different aspects? Why question is important. Non-conformity looks like negative, but it is not negative as long as you have the responsibility, you have assumed the responsibility of doing something good. Then attraction to complexity. All of us try to have a simple thing, but creative people or creative teacher, he is easily attracted to a lot of complexity. Aesthetic orientation, identification of beauty, discipline, flexibility of thoughts, and risk taking. And if you see all of these qualities or traits, most of them are common to entrepreneurs. Most of them are common to people who would like to start something on their own. which means in a way we are entrepreneurs, or we need to have those enterprising skills in our personality. Sometimes we are born with these things, or sometimes we have imbibed them from our family, from our culture, from our learning, social learning, all that. But sometimes we have to invest ourselves, we have to invest our time in inculcating or grooming those traits. It is possible, for example, I'm not openness to experience. Now I will take this as a one point, and I will try for a year, then try to improve that. I will be more open to experiences. Say, for example, I don't have any about aesthetics, beauty, and all that. So now let me have that orientation to appreciate the beauty. I'm not flexible of thoughts, and I'm not so risk taking. Let me try that. Maybe one point we'll take, then we'll keep practicing them. The second important component or a factor is family factor. A teacher's creative ability depends upon a family's social and economic status, structure, and composition. Say, for example, a teacher, not always true, but sometimes if you are so you have a very luxurious family background, then your way of looking at things and being creative is totally different. Risk-taking ability is also different. It depends upon your family factor. Then family factor is also important in relation among how a teacher and his siblings and entire family members and their relationship with each other is also important, because that is where we get love, care, and all that. So family factor is also an important factor. Third one, learning processes and life experiences. How do we learn is also important. Say, for example, when we were all kids, we learned so many things from nature. We connected with nature so well. So that's how I learned my creativity. And life experiences, I think I have already discussed about it. And another important aspect is belief or beliefs in education. Why education? All of us have our own answer. When we deep question this why, we were actually going towards something called as a philosophy or orientation. Why education? Maybe in the Western world, education is all about self-expression, sharing, and communication. There it ends. But let's not only limit ourselves to the Western belief system in education. Let's see what our Indian, minds to say about education. So once we understand our belief system in education, we can be better creative instructor. I have a quotation from Swami Vivekananda here about education. Education is not the amount of information that is put into your brain and runs riot there undigested all your life. It's not just information that you're putting in, and it's a chaos in their mind, undigested. Next line. Education for him means that process by which character is formed, strength of mind is increased, and intellect is sharpened, as a result of which one can stand on one's own feet. Now, this belief is much superior to the first two beliefs that I have copied from the Western education system. Self-expression, sharing, and communication. That is why in a common talk is Westerners think and they talk and then think. Indians are, they first think and talk in the public meeting. Most of us in the public meeting or in a public place, what do? First we think, should I say, should I not? Should I say, should I not? Evaluate many things. A lot of dialogue happens within you before you do something outside. I'm saying in general, right? Not with everybody. Maybe some of us are like first we talk and then think. But in general, we first think, then we talk. Whereas in Western, it is first priority is they think, self-expression, So first they talk, then they think. So, but look at, these are all superficial. They look superficial when you see in the light of what Swami Vivekananda has said. He says, education is the process by which a character is formed, strength of mind is increased, and intellect is sharpened, as a result of which one can stand on one's own feet. When we know this, or when we believe in this system, when we believe in this philosophy, then you will get lot of ideas about how to become a creative instructor. Say, for example, now that I believe education is all about strength of mind should be enhanced or increased, what should I do? You pose this question to yourself, then you get some ideas which would help. Now let's have these three things. One, character formation, strength of mind should be enhanced, and intellect to be sharpened. You can think of few activities, creative activities, which would focus on improving all of that because you believe in the system. So what you believe makes you or determines your creative abilities as a teacher or as an instructor. Another important line of thought about belief in education can be from Aurobindo, Sri Aurobindo. What he says, and look at my slide. So far, I was using the word instructor, but now I have placed it as dash, 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 because he says the teacher is not an instructor or a taskmaster. Today, we are like taskmasters, right? We give assignment, we evaluate, we want this, we want that. He is a helper and a guide. His duty is to suggest, not to impose. Very important. All Indian philosophy, Bharatiya Darshana Shastra, talks about this aspect. We never suggest anything. We suggest, but we do not impose. We only tell them, look, this can be good to you. We'll not force anything on anybody. Teacher does not actually train the pupil's mind. He only shows him how to perfect the instruments of knowledge to him. Yeah. So we play a role of a helper, facilitator, than instructor, than an educator. We don't teach anybody actually. What we do, we only help, we only facilitate somebody who want to perfect the instruments of knowledge for themselves. So if you want to become creative teacher, or if you want to become a creative guide or a facilitator, what is more important is to have a foundation towards these beautiful philosophies that would give you a lot of ideas to be creative in classroom, to be creative in teaching, to be creative in research, to be creative in institutional development, to be creative in, we do multiple tasks, isn't it? So all our creative abilities or creative tactics or skills or any techniques, let them all generate or originate from these two belief or from these two philosophies, because that creates an independent thinker or a person who is not just good to himself but also good to others. Yeah, good to the planet, good to other living beings. Third point, as we discussed, motivation is also an important component. More importantly, it is not extrinsic motivation, it is intrinsic motivation that plays an important role in becoming creative instructor, which means teaching is interesting, teaching is involving, teaching is satisfying, teaching is enjoyable and a personal challenge, and then that motivates you to become most creative. For example, there can be very upsetting, disappointing systems in place in our college or in our schools, but we dedicate ourselves to do better. We dedicate ourselves to be more creative in the teaching or more creative in our work because we love our job. We enjoy what we do. We are passionate about it. So that is why we dedicate ourselves to develop ideas, to design curricula, arrange activities. We do many things because It's not money or any other external rewards that motivates us. What motivates a teacher is truly his or her intrinsic motivation. I hope all of you agree with this point. Then, most importantly, often neglected is institutional support. Say, for example, this author, Horn and others, they did not include institutional environment, but this plays an important role to be a creative instructor. Okay, yeah. So, which means academic leadership, culture in our schools or colleges or department, infrastructure and policy. Yeah. Okay. Now, the uh, last section of my presentation is on few practical tips or strategies to foster creativity in academics. Some of the techniques that I'm going to discuss are like self-experienced, which means I have tried out and I would like to share with you. Some of them are in wide publicity, like they are there in most of the journals or in most of the forums. People discuss about them. So I would like to mix both of them. Few things which I have tried and what are the results, and few things which are there, which have been practiced by someone else. And if you see these creative tips and strategies, you can be creative in research, you can be creative in consultancy or community engagement, you can be creative in teaching. But what I'm trying to highlight today is more of creativity in teaching than in research or community engagement, because of the time constraint. Let me focus on creativity in teaching. The first technique or a tip is called as brainstorming. I think this is all out there from so many years, brainstorming techniques. How do we understand this? Which means where this technique, it's a creative thinking technique, brainstorming. Where is it? So first let me tell you the definition of brainstorming, then we'll come back to discussion. What is brainstorming? Brainstorming is a method design teams use to generate ideas to solve clearly defined design problem. Design problem can be any problem. Okay? In controlled conditions and a free thinking environment, teams approach a problem by such means as how might be questions. Like basically, we would like to find answers for how. How do we solve this problem? Yeah. They produce a vast array of ideas and draw links between them to find potential solutions, which means the end result of brainstorming is to have lot of ideas, quantity, number of ideas, and then draw links between them to find a potential solution. So what do? We typically gather, which means we come together for a brainstorming session in a room with a large board or wall for pictures, post-it clips and all that. A good mix of participants will expand the experience pool and therefore broaden the ideas, which means when we sit for brainstorming session, ensure that you have a good mix of participants. Good mix of participants meaning different experience background, different age group, different educational background, gender, all of that. So that brings you, that expands you the experience pool. If you all take from one discipline, from one department, then you will not get a new idea. We require, this is another way of working, start working with collaboration. How do we start? Let's have a brainstorming session. Say, for example, you would like to offer if you would like to offer a course in behavioral finance, say for example, then you need to call faculty members from psychology department, from management, from commerce. Yeah. Then discuss how do we design this curriculum and how do we teach, what exercises I have to develop. So this all can happen in brainstorming session. Yeah. So which means what do we focus in brainstorming is we focus on questions, not answers. We are not interested in questions. The answers anyway, they come when we have a right type of questions. So say for example, now the topic of discussion is a department or one university has decided to offer a course in behavioral finance. Now, how do you devise the curriculum? How do you teach? Yeah, and what are different exercises or case studies? How do you evaluate? Look at the words I'm using, how, which means this line which is there, how might we, which means brainstorming is all about how questions. If I want to offer behavioral finance, how do I offer? How do I teach? How do a psychology professor deals about it? How do a management professor deals about it? Yeah, so this is one technique called brainstorming technique. These are few guidelines, maybe you can go through later. Then another technique which is called as 6 thinking hats. This is very important exercise that we can do in the classroom. Which means take a situation or say for example, let's have this problem that post-COVID problems of business in post-COVID scenario, problems for business in post-COVID scenario. Now select 6 students and symbolically you represent them as blue hat, green hat, white hat, yellow hat, red hat, and black hat. So what they have to do, for example, if somebody is with the red hat, the left bottom quadrant on the screen, red hat, which is all about feelings, intuition, hunches, gut instinct, my feelings right now. How are you feeling about this aspect of doing business in post-COVID? Feelings can change. No reasons are given for feelings, but they are feelings. So one student will all share, list down about the feelings, and that's red hat. Look at white hat. What white hat does, a student who is wearing this hat, the topic is business in post-COVID scenario. So white hat is always about fact finding, information and data, neutral and objective. What do I know? What do I need to find out? How will I get the information I need? All that comes from white hat. Blue hat is all about process, thinking and about thinking. Thinking about thinking. What thinking is needed? How do I organize the thinking? Planning for action, all that. Then comes green hat, our creativity hat. They give a lot of ideas, alternatives, possibilities, solutions to black that to the black hat problem. Black hat gives a lot of problem. Look at the right bottom corner, bottom quadrant, difficulties, weaknesses, dangers, and all that. So green hat tries to solve that. And white hat, benefits. If I solve this problem, what are the positives, plus points, why idea is useful, logical reasons, all that be given by yellow hat. These hats can be changed, which means a group of people can be given as a blue hat and group of students can be given as a green hat. So even 2 or 3 students can also be grouped and given one label as a blue hat, or even individual. It depends upon your choice and your convenience. Yeah, this is also one of the important tip for fostering creativity in academics. Next important is about how do I connect and engage with students creatively? Very important. Often we fail to become creative teacher because we fail to connect and engage with students. Yeah. So that's why first thing is first, which is we should know our students well. You may have an index card. Index card is basically a kind of a small card that you devise and write all the details that you want to know, or you want your students, or your students want you to know about them. Both are important, that you would like to know about them, or sometimes students want you to know about themselves. For example, I'm a good dancer. I'm not a good dancer, but I'm just giving an example. I'm a good dancer and I want my teacher to know about it. I'm a good vocalist and I want my teacher to know about it. I'm a good artist, I'm a good, mathematician. I want my teacher to know about hobbies. So all that you write in the index card and give students to fill it up, they give and read them, understand them, know your students well. Not just knowing, then once you know them, try to connect with them from their, background. Keep them, not, don't throw it at the end of the semester. You keep them all the time. Even if they come after their education, maybe they work somewhere and they come back, you can easily recollect and connect well. Oh, look, this aspect of your is actually doing well. You can connect well and engage well even after they go out of the college. You can use Google Form for that, because now we are into online offline mode. If not index card, we can use Google Form, or you can use voice thread. Say for example, now the way I'm talking, you are not in front of me even virtually, but I'm recording it, so I can send voice threads or videos. Another way some of us can do, actually foreign universities ask for it, and they call it as SOPs, statement of purpose, which means students have to write why they want to join our college or our program. Okay. So even if we don't require from our students, already they have joined, but at least ask them to write it down. Why they would like, why are they here? And you get a beautiful idea, you get a really good knowledge about your students. And that is important for us to connect and engage. Once we connect and engage, then we have that kind of a comfortable platform to activate or to practice our creative things. Then we need to encourage participation. How do we do that? Especially in online classes on Zoom or any other platform, how do we encourage participation? You can do a random call or a cold call. For example, 35 students or 41 students attending your online class. What we can do, we really don't know whether they are there or they are not there, or only they have logged in but they are not paying attention. So then what we can do? You can do a random call. Say for example, in now and then you take a pause and ask few questions, not to just pull their legs, but to create that engagement. Even simple fact, repeat what I have said, kind of things you can do. Or sometimes if a student is hesitant to participate, you can make a warm call, which means prior to your class, before you start the class, you call them and say, see, today I'm going to ask you this question, please be prepared. So that's an important support for them who are little hesitant to come forward and participate. Peer grading is also an important activity. You can ask your own students to mark others. It's all time consuming, but they are worth to practice. Then give personally meaningful work. Basically, all our assignments are important area. We tend to ignore it. Assignments are really a beautiful mechanism where we build, where we apply a lot of creativity. Assignments can be devised uh, based on a particular class. You cannot have a standard assignment. This is what I have practiced, and I feel that this is I think a better way of working creatively. If you give a standard assignment to all the classes, for example, you take 3 batches, yeah, for a particular subject, you have 3 batches. You repeat the same assignment, you may not get the same response, same participation, because students, they may not feel, they may not connect with the assignment. That is why you understand the student. If possible, you do assignment design depending upon the student. If not, at least depending upon the class, you can design assignment. So better idea would be when you start teaching in few classes, you understand the level of students, their interest, their connection with towards the class, and then you design your assignment. Yeah. Then meaningful pre-work. It is both important. It is important for both faculty members and teachers and students to have some kind of a meaningful pre-work. Could be reading or watching few videos, or going to few reading the research papers. It is also an important thing. Pace your lessons well. One thing is very clear, that we have this greater challenge, that Our students will not, most of our students will not like lengthy lectures. It's a fact one must, recognize. They don't appreciate lengthy lectures. So what do? We need to include few short videos or polling app, group work, sharing. It's all important to try out these things so that you will not be perceived as a lengthy lecture. You will not really upset them too much on sharing lengthy lectures. One important caution when we take videos is this: don't select videos for the sake of selecting videos. They are not fillers. Yeah, it is a very important thing. I just want to repeat once again. Short videos, polling app, group work, sharing, anything that we do in the classroom, apart from lecture, they are not fillers. They are teaching aids. If you treat them as a filler, say for example, अभी एक 15 मिनट मैंने बात किया है, then और एक 15 मिनट में एक वीडियो दिखाता हूँ as a filler. No, they are not filler. If you do that, students don't appreciate those things, and it is not even a responsible way of being creative. And this is what important. You be creative and also imagine with responsibility. Yeah, that is why everything has to be planned. What video, whether video is suitable or a case is suitable or a small exercise is suitable, what is suitable, that you need to have. So these are different set of techniques available. We have to choose the technique depending upon the context, depending upon the challenge that you have. Yeah, don't let us not devise a class or a session plan depending upon the techniques available. We need to design the session plan depending upon the teaching objective or learning objective, rather than the videos or rather than the techniques I'm aware of or I'm comfortable with. I hope it makes a lot of sense to you. Then make learning experiences active and varied. They want variety. That's an important observation that we should understand. Which means our life is not so easy. We need to give them learning experience which are very active, and there is something called as kinesthetic learning, where people involve their hands, their limbs, so that they're properly involved in this. Okay, so and they need variety. Always they need variety. If you don't bring the variety, because that's how they have been molded by the media, social media and all that. See how much they have to work. These media, like say for example, YouTube and all that, if you see, what do they seek? They seek variety. And their attention span is really less. And that's a challenge that we need to deal with. And show students that you care. Thereby you can connect and engage well. These are few techniques to connect and engage. And if you connect and engage well, then your all your creative creative abilities or creative plans would work. Another important technique that I have practiced is this: PYP, praise your partner. This can be used when students work in teams, work in groups. So for example, you give them an assignment, 4 students in a team, they complete the assignment and they come back. Now, what we need to ask, apart from reading what they have written or what is the report that they have produced, there is one thing we can do. You can ask each team member to praise their partner. Praise not just like praise for the sake of praising, but ask them to highlight the strengths of your other team member. We often neglect positive aspects of others, and hence we don't recognize them. And second one, if you identify and appreciate the positive aspects of a team member, it's a sort of a good reinforcement. And he feels and he also understands, oh, this is the skill that is very important for my team. Hence, I have to improve this skill. I have to do little more, better in what I'm doing as of now. It builds confidence, and more importantly, it builds a comfortable learning environment among students. That is why PYP, praise your partner, is an important exercise. And you see the result quickly. Next class, Even if there is a hostility among students group, they all feel very comfortable. Yeah, all right. Next is experiential learning. I read out this statement which is given by Hoover and Whitehead in 1975. Experiential learning exists when a personally responsible participant, which means learning is not just teacher responsibility, it is the participant responsibility as well. So he participant cognitively, affectively, and behaviorally processes knowledge, skills, and or attitudes in learning situation characterized by a high level of active involvement. Yeah. So which means uh, when you involve people, students experientially, which means they involve cognitively, emotionally, behaviorally, you find a different level of learning. There is a saying, I hear and I forget, I see and I remember, I do, I understand. So, how often you give this platform to the students? Say, for example, you teach taxation again, for example. Instead of teaching taxation as a lecture method, you can easily do experiential learning. Say, for example, uh, take few live examples and give them. So this is it. You please work out on this problem. Then they involve because they do experientially. When they do experientially, their concepts, because they face challenges. When you attend a lecture on taxation, it's like a beautiful swimming. Some people sleep, some people don't care, but when you involve them, this is it, and tomorrow you have to come out with it, and you give necessary facilitation. You give them basic primary concepts that has to be taught clearly first, then they come forward and they solve the problem and they learn a lot. We have done this in our institute, which I have done. Like, we have created a small retail store. Essentially, we are from a fashion design college. So what I have asked management students of our department, you please go and select products from your design students, then price them and sell them. It looks very simple. You buy, sell. In retail merchandising, there are three important things. You plan, you buy, and you sell. Plan, buy, sell is taught lecture method. But when people involve in planning, people involved in buying, people involved in selling, students they involve, then you see a immense enhancement in their cognitive skill, in affective skill, in attitudes. Attitude is important. They feel that, oh, planning requires this kind of skill set. Buying, I have to be a good negotiator. Selling, I have to be a good communicator. Visual merchandising, I have to really understand how mannequins work and all that. So you can also devise such experiential learning modules and adapt. You change. You cannot take as it is from anywhere. You need to change as per your context. Whatever that is there in the textbook or in any printed material or anywhere it is written, let us not take as it is. It may not appeal as it appeal to someone else. That is why try to adapt as per the context. Yeah. As I think assignment part I have already discussed. All right, so this I'm not repeating. Another important thing would be reflection notes. Today we see students are not getting a fair chance to write, and hence the writing abilities are coming down. They can't write well. For example, remember we used to write letters to our parents, or even our examination, there used to be, letter writing for 10 marks, 15 marks. Today, that letter writing or writing per se is not much, you know, recognized in academics, unless you are in a doctoral study. But in professional courses of MBA and other things, writing is very minimal. They write, but not with that kind of a focus that you must have seen. So reflection note is an important thing. It can be a capstone. Capstone meaning you complete the course or you complete few concepts, then you tell students that you have heard all of these concepts. Now you please share your insights. You can write them. Some students may not be good in writing. Ask them to doodle. They make a lot of good doodling, or at least ask them to throw a few keywords or some pictures, but at least encourage them to record and give a chance for them to reflect what they have understood. And there you notice a lot of original thoughts and novel thoughts. Once they submit the reflection notes, take time to read and give valuable feedback and comments. Yeah, this is something which we feel like we don't have time, because of course it is reality. We don't get time to read in detail, but maybe in coming days, if everything is pursued seriously with the new policy, I think we should be getting enough time to read what students have written and appreciate, or at least give comments and feedback. Reflection note also help you to assess their comprehension and application of knowledge. Okay, so now we are coming to the end of our discussion. Here is a slide. You can call it as a summary slide. I'm going to ask you which one you choose, left or right. Left talks about if you want to become a if you want to apply or inculcate creativity in academics, which one you choose. I repeat my question. There are two sets of points, left side and right side. My question is, if you want to be a creative teacher, which path you choose? The points that are mentioned in the left side or on the right side? What is mentioned in the left side is this: beginner's mind, freedom, play, improvisation. Right side points are experience, discipline, professionalism, planning. Which one you choose? I think if you ask me the same question, I will be choosing both. I will not choose either left or the right. I will choose both. A beginner's mind with a sort of experience. I give a lot of freedom to my students, but it has to come with sort of discipline. Play is important. When we playfulness is important, but we cannot miss professionalism. We need to improvise, but we also need to have a good planning. And hence, I choose, or even I suggest you to take a good mix of both left and right side points. So in summary, what we have seen is this: creativity in academics is all the more important in the changing context. Creativity provides a deeper understanding of concepts. When you are more creative in your teaching, your research, it gives a deeper understanding of the concepts that you are talking. Creative methods develop learners into a creative, knowledgeable, and independent thinkers. And adopt or change creative techniques with clear teaching and learning objective, which means if you don't focus on the learning objective or a teaching objective, then your creative techniques will not yield any good benefit. That is why all your techniques of creativity, they should be persuaded in the light of clear teaching and learning objective. Here are the references or reading list, and I have already shared these papers with the university. You may please utilize them, and I thank you all for giving me this wonderful opportunity. I hope I have made some sense, and it's of some use to all of you. Thank you so much. Namaste.